impact on our ability to meet our goal. Exponential impacts if we aren't able to kind of get moving forward on some deadlines that we have in March. One deadline, specifically in March, but it could easily push deadlines in the fall and summer that we have as well. So I'd like to just take a couple moments to talk about some of the issues that we have heard, and I've read every single letter that's come in since October 3rd. One thought that I've heard is that the town would be subsidizing a private industry that's going to make millions of dollars off of childcare. I can assure you that's not the case. Childcare is not a profitable endeavor. I think if it were, someone would have filled this gap really quickly in Nederland. But we're able to do it because of our history, because of our ability to raise funds, find funds, and that this project would be part of a bigger entity. We'd have our own development team, which we do right now. We have HR. We have a lot of, the director of this preschool will not be a grant writer, which is true with a lot of preschools. So we have kind of a larger organization that can help make this possible in a reality. We're asking for a $260,000 piece of property. And on that, we'll build a building over $5 million for the town. The $260,000 is 5% of the cost. The economic benefit of this is outlined really well in Charles Wood's letter of support for this project, and what that means for the town. So to talk about kind of early childhood education and the profits that come from it, I have some just examples of here. Eagles Nest Preschool in Gilpin had a similar lease to Teens Inc., what we're proposing, $1 a year. They were also subsidized $75,000 a year from the county commissioners and over $100,000 a year from the DOLA gaming impact funds. We're not asking for that. We're not asking for ongoing support. In our lease that we have with the town for Teens Inc., our current building, it specifically states that we won't come to the town for ongoing operating supports. We haven't done that. We're not going to do that. But that's the norm for preschools and early childhood education centers like what we're offering. One that provides subsidies to families, makes it equitable access for the whole community. One that pays its employees fairly well, competitive, and provides benefits. Early childhood education centers need support. The Learning Center in Longmont gets over $50,000 a year from the city of Longmont. Boulder Day Nursery in Boulder gets $50,000 a year from the city of Boulder. Children's House Preschool in Boulder, $22,500. New Horizons Preschool, $35,910. Family Learning Center, $56,000. And Persimmon Early Learning Center, run by the YWCA, $72,000. But we're not asking for that. We're asking for a one-time investment and partnership and collaboration from the town to bring this service that we're ready to do. We're ready to leverage our resources, our expertise, and the relationships we have to make it happen. Another concern that's come up is ignoring neighborhood concerns. We've heard concerns, we've heard the concerns, we've responded to every email that we've had come to Teens Inc. We've taken concerns into consideration, the design of the building, traffic flow, the design of the building specifically to shield noise concerns from neighbors that we've heard. Downcast lighting, because lighting was a concern. The health of the creek, native riparian vegetation, creating space there, planting vegetation, creating a trail, I think will actually enhance that part of the area. There's been talk about it being a brownfield site. Up to now, all the scientists have said that it's not. I know that there was recent report, and we're fully in support of getting more testing done. We're not, the last thing we want to do is, try to circumnavigate that and create something in a space that it's not supposed to be. So we want to make sure that that's clear. Housing is more important than childcare. We don't think it's one or the other, or one can't live without the other. Teens Inc. was really active in supporting and moving Tungsten Village through, and will continue to work with the town to advocate for and make housing a possibility. Equally important for families that live in this housing is that they have a place where their children can get support and they can get the support they need to live and stay in those houses in this community. We've heard that this will have a disproportionate amount of non-residents will utilize this facility. From our interest/wait list that we sent out a survey, we had 43 respondents representing 55 children. 72% of them live in the 80466 area code. 42% of them live in the town of Nederland. 31% believe they'd be eligible for financial assistance. 30% infants, 52% toddler would want to enroll. There's currently absolutely no care for those two age brackets. So I think it's short-sighted personally to think of this as like just Nederland. People who live right outside of Nederland have a great impact on this community. For instance, 7 of our current 24 families enrolled at New Explorers work in the schools within Nederland. You've heard a lot of them say that they wouldn't be able to without care. They don't live in Nederland, but they surely work in Nederland and support the community of Nederland. People being able to stay up here to get their needs met will be able to spend money, be more likely to spend money and support businesses in town. So, and it will support a lot of Nederland families as well. Heavy traffic, this was outlined in the SRU. Certainly it's going to change the feel of the neighborhood. That will happen. At capacity, there'll be less than 50 cars per day coming and going and during the times. We'll continue to work with the community and the neighbors there to do what we can do to help mitigate those concerns to the best of our ability. Like I said, there will be an impact in the neighborhood. There'll also be 30+ days a year during the week where there'll be no students there. There'll also be no weekend hours. And we're happy to have that. Like our goal is not to provide care for people who ski at Eldora. Snow removal, drainage, flooding. The street department said that that's not an issue, that they can work with that. We'll be putting a trail and native vegetation in on the north side of the building. We'll be adding vegetation to the site that's currently totally barren. And we'll also be working with an engineer and team to ensure that the drainage issues are mitigated for. The funding model. Sure if this, we anticipate $5 million thereabouts. 65-70% coming from private foundations, government funding, 15% from our current donor base, 10% from the sale of the current property, and we're not opposed to taking out a loan as needed to complete the project to meet our goals. We also recognize that the larger the loan, the larger our costs for monthly payback are, which also means that it's harder to give great subsidies that we hope for. So we're cognizant of all of that. We've spoken with more than 25 different funders, public officials, donors, and people who have run and completed successful projects. We've done our homework. I can give you a long list of the folks that we've talked to if you have interest in that. But it's not something that we just thought up on August 2nd or October 2nd and came here on October 3rd. This was something that the Teens Inc. board was talking about for 18 months before the timing felt right for us as an organization from the research that we gathered to move forward. So I guess in summary, just to say, like, we've looked at other sites, we've spoken to quite a few property owners. We've done our due diligence. This site demonstrates a significant partnership that the town believes in that will help us move forward in a timely fashion. I understand that this is like a difficult decision for the trustees. I also understand that there's a lot of trust that needs to be had from the town and the trustees and the community toward Teens Inc. to make this happen. We have a 25-year track record of doing this. We have a 25-year track record of growing and sustaining programs and keeping them going, despite them being 100% free to the people who utilize it. And we are ready to go and make this happen. We just need to get approval to get going. And the time's right, and there's important stuff for us right around the corner. So happy to talk more about it, answer any questions, address any concerns that you may have.
It looks like we paused.
Trustees, should we go around the table first? If you have something, Mary?
I've got questions.
Go ahead.
I guess just to contextualize it, Miranda, approval of this SRU application would not constitute an agreement to vacate Fifth Street. Is that correct?
Correct.
So I guess my question is, if this SRU were approved, but Fifth Street was not vacated, as this design kind of suggests it needs to be, how would you be able to adjust, and how would you adjust?
Yeah, it would cram parking, I think, a little bit, and it would, we wouldn't be mitigating that, creating that I mean, there'd be that buffer. It would be a street. It wouldn't be helping the riparian area
Right.
at all. And it would not be creating, some semblance of habitat and creating some buffer between the building and the creek.
But it wouldn't result in a reduction of the size of the built structure.
No, I think, again, these are conceptual plans. I could see everything would have to move south, which would take away that parking spot, those 6 spots for staff on the west side.
Understood. And on that same note, what is the total square footage of the built structure in this concept drawing right now?
Excuse me, right around 10,000.
10,000.
Yeah.
And that's including the second story.
That's including the second story.
Do you know what the
those
footprint-
offices are necessary on the second floor for teachers, directors, therapists. Yes.
And then the footprint just on the lower level total, do you know that off the top of your head?
I
I didn't see it in the.
It is
this
in there.
document.
It's small, but it is in there. And if I could see the plans, I can point it out.
Maybe
really
it was-
quick. I didn't bring them.
I searched through it, but maybe it was,
Like it's about 7,000 downstairs.
yeah, that makes sense. Just so that I have it for my notes here.
Yep.
And I guess this one, sorry, I should have asked this before, Miranda. I'm wondering what about the site plan alleviated the streets department's concerns?
So they had similar concerns as the fire department, exactly like where are they going to be able to move snow around? And so the way in which the building becomes L-shaped removed both concerns.
Okay.
But it was mainly snow mitigation.
And the other question that I had is, I understand this is a draft ground lease that was included in the packet, just a sample ground lease, not the one that we'd be using.
Correct. Yeah. If approved this evening, that would be the next step, is that we would work with teens to draft that lease.
And one of the things that I noticed in the draft lease was that Nederland would pay tap and sewer fees. Is that part of this SRU agreement?
No.
No. And I was wondering, Stephen, if that is something that Teens Inc. is seeking, or because if that were not approved, there would be additional cost. So I just wanted to make sure that that's something that you guys can absorb.
I think there's a few negotiating points based on some of the other things that trustees have brought up that would all be on the table.
Great. Those are my questions for now.
You'll come up with more, I'm sure. Jesse? Luke?
Yeah, I've got a couple. So you mentioned the lighting as a concern in the neighborhood. Would you guys go for dark sky certification?
Dark sky principles. I don't know if we'd technically go for certification. Same with LEED,
Right.
because of just the costs and stuff associated with that and the benefit from it. But we're certainly committed to doing dark sky principles. Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
And then in the public comments, I saw somebody talking about the drainage. So I just wanted to kind of piggyback on Eric's comment of, I guess currently there is drainage issues in that area and snow removal issues in that area. Is that something that the town has addressed? And I mean, I just want to make sure that, everybody's aware that the plan is in place to make it up.
Well, we'll be working with engineers and architects to create the whole drainage plan. And I would definitely be trusting their expertise over mine. And then same with the street department and the snow removal. If there are issues, we would work with whomever to address the issues, certainly.
Luke, the way that their ordinance is written, the water, since we had no storm sewer, has to stay on premises. Jesse did the work at our house. It involves pooling it, using layers of gravel to keep it on site so it doesn't flow.
Right. Yeah, and I would just with the creek right there, obviously that's something to think about. Those are my questions.
Is Trustee Corbel on? Trustee Corbel, do you have any questions?
Yeah. Hi. Do you hear me?
We do.
Oh, great. Two questions. One, the architecture of the facade, the skin, is that negotiable to give it a more of a neighborhood feel? Give it a look of individuality in units, even though it is one large building?
Absolutely. Oh, that really blew up. Yes, that's totally negotiable.
That's great to hear. And then the second one was there any discussion of giving Nederland families kind of a jump on the wait list of any kind, or just keep it as they come in, just fair?
I think, again, there's stuff that's negotiable with that. I know that we've talked to specific donors of multiple six-figure gifts to have a priority list. And that's usually how stuff like this works with regards to having priority list on the wait list is showing a very significant investment to make it happen.
Okay, thank you so much, Stephen.
Any other clarifying questions or comments you want
It's your
the
turn.
public to know? Okay. The only comment I have, well, maybe more than one. is Dyer's neighborhood is mostly medium residential, medium density residential, and public in a few spots, the town shop site and the fire department. And then just also to make clear, 3rd Street on both sides of the road east of Griffiths is neighborhood commercial. So there are actually 3 zones in there already. And across the highway, it's medium density, general commercial, and then there's one spot that's, well, one spot, not at the roots general commercial, but I just wanted to point out there is 3 zones in that neighborhood, not just residential. We make our decisions based on, this is an SRU application, and it's relatively objective criteria in our code, 1655. The SRU approval criteria and conditions. And those are the things that we make our decision on. So it's helpful if the comments address those issues, because we will likely have a lot of comments. And as we get into that, it's helpful if folks are able to focus on those SRU criteria, because that's really what we can make decisions on, whatever we think. I'll just say this. So, it's challenging for many of us in town, because there's many parts of town that are likely to change over the next few years. This is one part of town that at least now is looking at this possibility. Those of us I live in Old Town. There's a big property just north of us that's a big unknown right now. Downtown is a big unknown. Everyone who lives around downtown, or for that matter, everyone is affected by that. So it is a challenging time to be, I lose a little sleep over stuff myself, thinking about the changing of my neighborhood and, what's good for the town or what's good for the neighborhood. So I can empathize all the way around. I also have little kids. We had a time of it, making it work for our youngest. We moved here, our oldest, it used to be different. Now it's super tight, and I can empathize on both sides of the coin is what I'm trying to say. So, but as a decision maker, we just have to look at these objective criteria and try to, and that we'll be doing this for neighborhoods and other parts of town too, where that'll affect a lot more people, including those of us who live, directly around these other places. There'll be maybe bigger changes to town. So we have to go back to objective criteria and make good decisions based on that. So just wanted to get some focus going for public comment. And that said, there'll be 3-minute comments, no sharing of minutes. You get 3 minutes. More people we hear from, usually more effective than one person getting a bunch of minutes. If you're hearing something being said, it's been said. You probably don't need to keep repeating stuff. So it's best to stay novel and build on things versus repetitiveness. It's not that it is important, but for sake of time, and there's going to be a lot of deliberation, and you just build on what you hear. And we'll probably start with, definitely start with folks in the room.
Before we do, I didn't get a chance to say anything.
Oh, I'm so sorry. You said me. So I thought you just said everyone had, so sorry.
No.
Okay, good. So,
I'll be real quick.
no, you take your time.
We're ruling, you mentioned other changes going around town. That's not what we're ruling on tonight.
I know.
And also we're just, this is ordinance 859 for a special review. And that's all we're looking at tonight. We're not approving a building plan. This is very, very narrow tonight.
That's a good point. This is one part of the process. And Teens Inc. doesn't get it. There'll be a lease, there'll be permits, there'll be details. So we don't, we don't want to delve into too many details of that will come with permitting if something were to happen here or elsewhere. We just want to stick to the fact that, are we approving this special review use for this piece of property?
I have an additional comment as well. I just want to say I did walk the site with some of the neighbors and friends, and I think judges would like to say they have some really valid points and things that I care about. And at the same time, part of our main responsibility is to listen to the community, and I feel like the community has spoken pretty clearly. But I think it's really important as this moves forward that, Teens Inc. works really closely with that neighborhood. I know that if I lived in that neighborhood, I would want to be as closely involved as possible to mitigate any concerns and issues. And Billy's point is fair, like it will change. But hopefully we can make some of it positive change, and that there is a benefit to the wider community.
Luke, I'm a neighbor too. Walk it with me.
Right.
Yeah, and it will change no matter what happens. It'll change if it's residential or affordable housing or a park, but obviously some changes would be easier than others. So with that, I'd like to go with folks in the room first, and then, but we'll go with folks who don't want this to happen. The folks who dissent or are not in favor of a childcare going into the Old Town Shop site. Come on up, identify yourselves and your relationship to town, and you got 3 minutes. Please keep an eye on the timer.
Hello, my name is April. I live in the neighborhood. I am speaking to object the proposal, not the proposal itself, the proposal's location. I think everyone here agrees we want the childcare facility, but not here. We were promised affordable housing or housing going way back. Everybody knows this. We've hammered on this many different times. There was a resolution, Bud Lake Swap. You guys have heard all this before. Additionally, I know that housing is a priority of a lot of yours. I just read Tom's article in the paper saying, what you had outlined for your priorities. Housing is number 3. Teens Inc. is number 6. This is an important issue. And it's perfect because you have the half-acre site, which is the Old Town Shops, and then another half-acre, which is Rasham's property, which she's been outspoken with me at least about really wanting to get, how do I say this politically correct? The mobile homes are very difficult for her to manage. She would like to see something happen with them. She wants to redevelop. So this is a prime opportunity for almost an acre of neighborhood redevelopment just in that small area. Housing, I feel like, is a much better financial decision for the town. We need infrastructure improvements. I mean, we all can agree on that. The $1 release, $1 a year for 99 years is going to tie up a community resource for an extremely long time. And I don't know what financial value we're getting back. So I guess I'd like to hear more about that. I also feel like this is an extremely contentious issue. I mean, there's people lined up practically out the door to speak. I think we should put it to a vote. I think Nederland voters should be the one to decide whether or not this is going forward or not. That seems extremely fair. If indeed more than half the people, that have been speaking vote on the issue, fine. I'm willing to go with that, but I'm not convinced that what I've been hearing from is all Nederland voters. And you probably heard, I don't know if Miranda spoke yet. I'm sorry, I was a little bit late. 750 West 5th has not been properly tested for contamination for specifically a childcare facility. We did a different type of testing. So this needs to be done as well to make sure it's safe. I know if my kid were going there, I'd want to know that it was safe. So anyway, I think we're all sitting in agreement. Yes, we want childcare, but I personally don't feel like this is the right location. So thank you. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, April. Next. Are there other folks in the room that are not for this SRU?
Sure. Hi. Everybody hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Mary Billy et al. So I'm John, 850 West Fifth, and you heard from April, but I will say that 10,000 square foot building, 200 feet from our house in a, quiet residential neighborhood does not make sense. Rasham, as April said, has expressed that she really wants housing. She wants the trailers out. She wants housing there. That's 0.45 and 0.45. That's, if my math is correct, that's 90. And that's a heck of a lot more room for some efficiency homes that I think would really benefit the town. I see this nothing more as a land grab for free land from an organization that's already taken our free land. Are we going to give them more? That's not what our government land is for, what our town land is for. This should be used, I think, I ask you all to think about this, to really digest this. I don't know why we're making a rushed decision here. It seems like this needs to be put to a vote. And when I say vote, Nederland residents, Nederland tax-paying voting residents should be deciding this. I understand you all have a very difficult decision to make here. And I hope that you make the best one for our little neighborhood. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, John. Appreciate it.
Kathleen Chipine, Magnolia Starroot, 33 years, 22-year business owner. I want to point out a few things that struck me as unfair in addition to my letter submission today. First, I don't see public notice to today's BOT hearing included in the packet. I see notice to the PC meeting last month. The town never opened up bidding to anyone for the use of public lands at 750 West Fifth, including to teens. The response has been anyone can file an SRU, which is true for private land, but this is public land. Per the Muni Code 16-52 application, an application for approval of a special review use may be filed by a person having an interest in the property for which the special review use is requested. I'm going to highlight here, with the written consent of the owner, and shall be made on a form provided by the town. The residents of Nederland are the property owner. There is no written consent in the SRU request from the property owner. Electors casting a vote would grant the written consent of the owner or deny it. This language requiring written consent of the property owner appears to require a vote from the resident owners, and if approved, would initiate open bids for special commercial use in a mid-density neighborhood prior to the approval of an SRU application. I don't even believe this application should be in front of you guys per our code, because we don't have written consent from the owners of this property per the code. This is public land. It should go to a public vote for the use for 99 years and the financial impact it will have on the community. Yet this critical step of owner's permission required in the code's SRU application is missing. Based on Stephen's response to a planning commission member at the planning commission hearing, Teens doesn't want a public vote on the issue, nor in Steve's response to me asking Teens to pull their SRU, so the childcare question and the housing question could have both been on this April's ballot. We all know much fewer people are engaged in this special ask of an SRU than if it were on the ballot. And at the PCSRU, when a board member asked about the 99-year lease for $1, Fisher said that could not be discussed until after passage and was not part of the SRU. Yet Fisher included a sample lease in today's SRU for $1 a year for 99 years. Silencing discussion on the absurd giveaway of public land for private commercial use is un-American. The public also has Eric's November 21st comments with words to the effect that town shouldn't hinder teens' grant application deadlines. The grant deadline was a fulcrum of their intentions on why, in my opinion, this SRU is being pushed through hastily. Apparently, neither the POC, the public, nor the BOT received or issued any formal permission to grant Fisher executive power to act as the resident owner's agent in this SRU. And there looks to be a conflict of interest when the town admin is representing both the property owner and the town residents by advocating for
Kathleen.
the SRU applicant,
Thanks,
as
Kathleen.
she did in the PC hearing and throughout by telling other board members the
Okay.
lease and profitability or loss cannot be discussed.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, everybody. Thanks, Kathleen.
There was
For
a
the
comment
detail.
online about people being unable to hear. I'm not sure if that's.
Okay, Macy and Miranda, did you hear that? Okay. Okay, we did get, just so everyone out there hears, we just heard from someone that they can't hear well online. Raise your hand if that's consistent for others, but for now, May, go ahead with your comment.
Mary Gerald. I live in the neighborhood. Kathleen and I discussed today, we aren't attorneys and it's taken a while to kind of ferret out the process that seemed to be circumvented of trying to get authorization for the lease agreement, the moving it forward as an SRU. When you look at the form that was filled out by, I believe Miranda signed on behalf of the town and Stephen LaFave, there's a box there for a conceptual review. I think this has been the missing step. A conceptual review would have allowed people to argue childcare, housing, and open space, because that's at the core of my concern about the neighborhood. If you build and put a fence around what's right now open space, and then build up the neighborhood with Rasham's townhomes and my fourplex through the Prop 123, then you're going to need places for people to let their kids play when they're not in school. So, and also the town planner, who is very new to her job, according to the SRU information I saw, was supposed to issue recommendations, points of concern. For example, it doesn't meet the comp plan. I detailed those in the letter that I sent to you. And if we were to kick it back to a conceptual review, or better yet, now that we have more information on the contamination, open it up to a public meeting. Just have an open table, open meeting discussion. And yeah, I don't think anybody argues that childcare is not necessary. That's why we have the programs in Colorado that we do. Of course, it's important. However, once you put a building all the way to the edge there, and those are 60-foot roadways. So a 20-foot buffer for a 60-foot roadway is a pretty questionable thing. By the way, if the building's worth 5 million, the lot could be considered to be worth a quarter of that. Interest on that is $35,000 a month. We need a fiscal note. Thank you. And also for this drainage, who's going to pay for that? We haven't developed the drainage over there. Makes sense to do it with Rasham. Thank you.
Thanks, May. Other folks in the room who are not in favor of the SRU approval?
Hello. My name is Bob Cusson, and I moved to Nederland in 1980. And I bought property and a house at 665 West 3rd Street in 1984. So I've been here for more than 40 years. And this is not the town that I moved to. You know, there's so much talk about expansion and all this, and these are things that are not indicative to the area. You know, this is a nice sleepy little town. It's always been, and that's what I loved about it. And I object to having building and construction workers and cars and everything. And that's all I wanted to talk about. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other folks in the room who want to speak? Not, who are not in favor of the SRU? If not, we'll go online. Folks online who want to give us a public comment. Mandy?
Yes.
So, go for it.
I'm completely in support of childcare for families here in Nederland. However, I believe this public land should be used for the good of the people who live and pay taxes here in Ned, as well as for the good of the neighborhoods that surround this land. I think there are a lot of questions that need to be answered and issues that need to be worked out before this project proceeds. If this public land is given for free, essentially, how will we taxpayers be guaranteed that will only care for children belonging to Nederland tax-paying parents? The answer is we won't guarantee that. And how will you ensure that Nederland area parents' children are prioritized? I would like to also know why Eldora Mountain Resort has already started a fundraising campaign this week for this project, asking their employees to make donations to this cause, who mostly don't even live in the Nederland area. We may say there's a goal to prioritize Nederland residents, but it's been essentially communicated that if a rich family from out of town brings their ski kids up to Eldora, if they donate tons of money, they'll get priority for their kids. And a reminder, this is public land we're talking about. Is that how we want to treat our local Nederland families here? If you have money, we'll let you in. Also, what is the plan to stop traffic from shortcutting and backing up 3rd and 4th Streets in our neighborhood when people pick up and drop off their kids? It's already been stated this will change the neighborhood, and there's nothing we'll be able to do about a lot of that. What's the plan to restructure 3rd and 4th Streets as one-way streets when this problem starts happening? What analysis has been done on whether this child care center and location meets our envisioned planning for this town? What other locations have we evaluated for the child care center that would be better suited? Just because it's free site doesn't make it the right location. Why force the issue of disrupting this quiet neighborhood when other sites could be evaluated as more suitable? Would affordable housing be a more suitable quiet option to be here in this neighborhood as originally discussed? These issues and questions need answers before we move forward, and I believe as a tax-paying resident of Nederland, who will have to live next door to this, that we deserve a vote on what this land should be used for before we move forward. Thanks.
Thanks, Mandy. Other folks online?
Charlie and Chris.
Okay, Charlie.
Hello, I'm Charlie Woodcock, 470 Coulson Street. So I live in the Dyers neighbourhood, and I expected and understood that the old town shop site would be developed for housing. I've looked at the proposed plan for the childcare centre at this location, and I do have some concerns about what, if this goes, what the reality would be for us neighbours living right next to it. First off is traffic and noise, big concern for me, both of which would be less if this was developed for housing. The proposed childcare centre development is so big that on that plan it does show, of course, the 2 entrances and parking areas for vehicles. So in addition to the 40-50 cars coming in on the east side to drop off the children in the morning, there'll be staff cars will also be driving through to the other side, to the west. And this staff parking has grown as I've watched the plan change from 4 spaces now to 6. And aside from the staff parking, if you look, there's actually cars showing on the plans on the 7.1 January 5th Teens Inc. preschool document. There's cars parked on the west side of the building on the street as well. This proposed plan and its 2 entrances for cars will take over our neighbourhood. I'm also concerned about noise, which Teens Inc. does acknowledge as something that needs mitigating for the neighbourhood. The Teens Inc. application under the setbacks part does say planting trees on the west and the south side to mitigate noise and visual disturbances. So the reality is that if the trees grow, and we know we live at 8,000 feet, that's hard, they'll be growing really slowly. So it will do nothing for us for decades to decrease the noise blocking or visual disturbances. We actually planted in our yards a couple of evergreens, probably 30 to 40 feet from where these proposed trees would be on the west side. And I have to say, they've grown 4 inches in 4 years. So the reality is that as neighbours, we will be staring at a big building for the future. I'm also concerned about possible leading to weekend openings down the road if Eldora Mountain are a big part of this or pushing for it. And I'm concerned with the potential contamination issue. I do feel if there's any question at all about the soil contamination, that this should be fully explored and complete testing done. And as a board member, if I was in your shoes, I would want to be having that done before I vote on this. So I just urge the board to take into consideration our concerns as neighbours and the actual reality of how this would be for us, and hopefully can look at multiple options for this site before making a vote on it. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Charlie. Chris?
Chris sent a letter in, so he's all good. Thank you.
Okay, cool. Thank you, Charlie. Was there another Chris who raised his hand? Okay, sorry. I thought you said two. Anyone else online who would like to speak out against the approval of the SRU? Go ahead. Is that Lisa?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Lisa.
Hi, thank you. I first want to say that I appreciate Luke's comment and consideration of the residents who live here full time. I live on 3rd Street and have serious concerns about the scale of this building and its impact on our neighborhood. The building itself is substantial and will bring forward increased traffic and noise pollution that will not be easily mitigated. I've honestly never experienced such divisive politics before. This is Nederland. You know, I moved to Nederland to experience Nederland, and this has been a confusing experience, especially being in this neighborhood. I'm concerned about the expediency in which this project is being pushed forward for the benefit of Teens Inc. alone. There have been a number of issues that the residents of this neighborhood and the community members have raised that have not been adequately attended to. In addition, I have some serious concerns about the violation of the spirit of the law and general sunshine laws requiring public deliberation. I would ask Teens Inc. be reasonable and reconsider the many other options that are more appropriate and have been made available to them. I don't believe that this issue is going to go away, unfortunately. I believe it's in the best interest of the people to postpone this vote, if nothing else, or put it to a vote that the people can weigh in on, so that the many legitimate concerns about the use of this land can be considered and addressed fairly. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Elisa.
Elisa, can we please get your last name for the record?
Yes, it's Cohen.
And just a reminder for everyone to please do your first and last name and whether you're a resident or not when giving public comment.
Thank you. Anyone else online want to speak out against this SRU approval? If not, we'll bring it back into the room for folks in favor of the SRU. And again, 3 minutes and build on each other's comments. Please don't repeat them.
Okay, so we've heard there's a common thread in the opposition.
Can you please?
I'm Kate Esquerdo. I live on 1983 Ridge Road. From all the opposition, the thesis is that we're moving too fast and this doesn't benefit the people that it should of this town. The reason that we're all here, the reason that we continue to show up is because the time isn't now. The time was years ago. This town has suffered dramatically because of the lack of childcare accessible to families that move up here. I'm not going to repeat what I said in my letter. I'll just add some additional things. In the last year alone, 3 families in our neighborhood have brought their kids to Boulder and plan to keep their kids at Boulder for their education. My kids were friends with their kids. It's fragmented our neighborhood and our community and will continue to do so. 2 families that we know of in our neighborhood, immediate stone's throw, have moved to the Front Range in the last year because they don't have affordable childcare in Nederland. We considered moving multiple occasions. I quit my job in 2023. I was a leader in the software industry, about to raise $3.5 million for a mental health startup company. Couldn't do it. Our family we were leaving in the morning at 6:45 a.m. to drive to Boulder 5 days a week to drop our kids off for childcare. We weren't home until 6 p.m. We can't do it. We couldn't do it. We couldn't live here and do that life. I love affordable housing. I want this town to grow and thrive. I want to see the leadership for that initiative. I would love to support that as well. This proposal doesn't just benefit families with children. It benefits our entire town. It is the future, the economic stability of Nederland, for our businesses, for even the Dyers neighborhood. I understand this is a sacrifice, a huge sacrifice for that community. And I feel it, I get that. But their town will thrive too because families will be able to live and thrive in Nederland. Okay, that's it. Thank you.
Thanks, Kate.
I don't have my kids anymore, but I do have props. I'm Trinity Wells. I live at 175 Skyview Drive North, and this is my daughter Atlantis, who's 5. Cassius was here, he's 3, and then we have 18-month-old twins. I've been up in front of you. This is the 3rd time. An update is that we lost childcare for our twins. So, well, anybody volunteering, right? Both my husband and I are professionals. This is really hard, right? Our nanny is here tonight to support us in bringing our kids. And we're gonna figure out something because we figure it out, but we've got to figure it out for future families, and we don't want to be the only family in Ned. So we gotta do this for the future families in our neighborhood. And in 2017, when Jake and I moved in, before Atlantis was born in 2018, those are the 7 are 3 block, where I can walk with a stroller. There were 7 kids. Now, since 2017, of 5 to 17-year-old kids, and one of those kids aged out. One of them's over 18 now. So those are the 5 to 17-year-olds. Atlantis is in there. I think you're the moose, right?
Take a while, it's not kids.
Totally. All right, next bag. We have kids between 2.5 and 5 years old. So our son Cassius is in this bag. So those are kids that are eligible to go to New Explorers. And he also went to Eagle's Nest. These are kids under 2.5 years old without a formal option for childcare. And the twins are in there that lost childcare in the last couple months. Her daughter and her daughter and her daughter. And then these are the 3 little babies that were just born in our neighborhood. They're 6 months old and like 2 months old and weeks old.
Check.
That pile is New Explorers. I'm good.
Thank you.
Say a word while she cleans up.
You can take your own 3 minutes now, Jake. Identify your name and
Jake Wells, 175 Skyview Drive North. And I hear real complaints from folks, and I think it comes from, I mean, it's NIMBYism, not in my backyard, not in my backyard. Like literally, I'm the neighbor, not in my backyard. And that resonates with me, I get that. But like the default is no. And from an outside perspective to some degree, from an arm's length, this feels just maddening. And like, can we not benefit our town? Is it just going to be no for everything? If it was a nuclear waste site, I'm with you. Let's not do that. If it's a prison, I get that. I can't even think of a better thing to put in there though. Like, we're gonna say, I don't like the sounds of children's laughter. That's all I got.
thanks, Jake. Anyone else have a comment in favor?
My name is Anjanea Kennedy. I live in Gilman County by Royce, so I'm still in the school district. I wanted to bring up the point that while the fundraiser that was mentioned, working with Eldora, it's a super cool opportunity for matching donations for a limited time for this idea of a childcare center, but in no way does it guarantee employees who donate are going to have priority for that proposed childcare center. I'm on the board for Teens Inc. The pressure to push this forward is so that we don't have to wait another year or 2 years to go through a lot of the progress that's already been made to get this going. There's a major hole in childcare in the Peaks Peak region. The wait list for New Explorers is over full. There's no formal childcare for infants or toddlers, and Eagles Nest closed. Like all of these things happened at once. It's like, as someone said, it's like this needed to have happened years ago. It's like, it's not something that's like can wait any longer. There's been so much effort put forward by Teens Inc. to figure out how to solve this issue. And while there are many facets and concerns to be addressed, I keep seeing Teens Inc. working hard to address and consider each concern as it comes up and doing its best to move forward to meet this dire need. This isn't a grab at free land or a money-making scheme. It's Teens Inc. looking out for our community in yet another arena. There are many land opportunities for affordable housing, and while I hear public comment really wanting that issue to be addressed, it shouldn't be used as opposition to this well-thought and considered plan to benefit our community. That's what I got.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Shanna Fitzgerald and I live off of Lazy Z. And I am also on the board of Teens Inc. And I really appreciated what you said about that change is coming to town. It's just inevitable. And how we want that change to be shaped is what is the question and what is within control. And I do remember a time when people were up in arms in town because sidewalks went in for the safety of people to walk, not have to walk in traffic. So while there will always be opposition to any change, and I can understand not wanting something in one's backyard that is like that change front and center, I think it's important to look at the community as a whole and to understand what will build the community up over these changes that are happening, whether we want them to or not. I also would love for Nederland to stay a sleepy town that it was 30 years ago when I moved here, but that's just not what's happening in this town or any other town. And I also believe that there have been some erroneous bits of information that have been shared, like that Teens Inc. is going to be used for daycare for people who want to go skiing, which is not the case at all. And that people will be buying their spaces because they have money, which is also not the case. So the opposite is true. The people who are making not very good wages, or not, I shouldn't say not very good, not high wages, need affordable childcare. And they may be working at Eldora and they need childcare to be able to go to work. And so that's, I think, where the Eldora aspect comes in. Isn't for people who want to go ski, but it is for people who are struggling to make ends meet and need childcare. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Nick Scheides, and I'm a Rollinsville resident, so I don't live in Nederland. I did move up to Nederland in 2016 with my now wife, and it kind of was, I wanted to speak a little bit about some of the, how important it is to benefit Nederland. I agree it's really important that we benefit Nederland, but it was a little bit hurtful for me to think about being seen as an outsider when I feel like such a big part of this community and the love I have for Nederland. And we talk a lot, well, I'm also a Teens Inc. employee, so I should say that as well. But we talk about serving the peak to peak, and there's a region that Nederland is the hub of that I feel like we all have friends who are part of that community, and that we all are a mountain community together. And obviously there's Nederland too. I had a couple kids after moving to Rollinsville, and I actually quit my job in 2021 because one of us had to quit our job or figure something out, just like everyone else says, or move away. And I'm so thankful that I was in a position to do that. But I know a lot of folks aren't. And I know people who are going down to Boulder every day for their kids. And I will say, I spend a lot more money in Nederland as a Rollinsville resident who's got a kid at the New Explorers right now. And my other kid is in Boulder Valley School District at the kindergarten now. So it's part of the pipeline. And I do feel like there's Nederland, and I support Nederland making the decision that's best for them. But I also want to say that I feel like there's a bigger family if we open our hearts and broaden a little bit more, and that we're all enriched by that. And I will say, kind of to Jake's point too, there are worse things to move in. You will never see a quieter, more careful driver than someone picking their preschooler up. I double check like all my mirrors twice, back up slowly. I do not want to hit a kid. It is a couple times during the day that people will arrive there. It is a couple times during the day that the staff will arrive. I don't think it's a huge traffic. It never seems loud when I drive up. I know this is going to be a bigger facility. I know people don't want to look at a building when they live out in nature, but I think you guys have back windows too. So I encourage the people who live in that neighborhood to think about the ways that it might be nice. It's off the road. It's still right by the firefighter station. That's their favorite field trip. With the Tungsten Village apartments going in a few years ago, and I heard about other plans for affordable housing. This is why there's urgency. I know the people at Teens Inc. There's so many people giving their hearts. Karen and Lisa, who have been doing this for 25 years in the community, they didn't do it to get rich. It is the hardest job in the world. These people are saints. They have such great hearts. I can speak to Stephen. This is not a land grab. Everybody at that teen center is given so much to the youth, and I know that it ripples out. You may say, I don't have a teenager, I don't have a preschooler. You benefit from teenagers having a safe place to go after school. You benefit from having families that have care. Thank you very much for listening, and I hope you consider it.
Thanks, Nick.
Hey, everybody. I am Caroline Bennett. I am a Ned taxpayer, but I currently live in Gilpin County in Rollinsville with, actually near Nick, with a 5-year-old and a 2-year-old. I'm exhausted because I have to get up at 6 a.m. to take my 2-year-old to Boulder every day while my 5-year-old is in kindergarten in Ned. To be honest, it would be easier to pull Navali out of kindergarten and take her to Boulder as well, because at least they would have the same schedule. I have to work full time. We have to have 2 incomes to afford it up here now. I'm going to read my notes because I don't want to repeat myself. I've spoken at the last couple of meetings. Several talk about this issue, this image of what Nederland is or was. So if that's town without families or another suburb pretending to be a community while forcing families down the hill, just say that. On that note, with all due respect, y'all on the opposition, I'm guessing, are largely over 50. Who do you expect to pay taxes in the future? This is to keep future generations in Ned and to keep the brain drain at bay. Speaking of brain drain, on that note, the opponents speak of this being bad for the economy. You clearly don't have kids under 5. Do you know how much childcare costs and how much money we are dumping into Boulder? Then down the line, how much money those once Ned kids will drop in Boulder when they realize there's no Ned future for their families. So I say to the opponents, good luck with your retirement community. They'll probably want to build a golf course.
Thanks, Caroline.
Hello. This is a good mic. My name is Jenna Ovett. I'm going to piggyback a little bit off of Nick here. He had a little bit more positive spin. I feel a little bit more angry, to be honest. So here, I'm going to read what I have down here. But again, my name is Jenna Ovett. I live at 256 Bonanza Drive off of Ridge Road. And I understand there's a question going around if town residents would be prioritized for childcare. I am technically not a town resident, and I find it insulting that you're insinuating my opinion matters less. You know, the fact is that Nederland is my community. This is where I do my grocery shopping. This is where I get my gas. This is where I plan to raise my kids, at least if I can find childcare. This is the third BOT meeting I've been to in 3 months. My husband is the vice chair of ProSab, and the unfortunate reality is that Boulder County doesn't care about Ridge Road residents. So what, are we just forgotten? And while I would love to vote yes on this in a Nederland election, I can't vote on Nederland issues. And I think there's a fairly large number of people here who also support this but can't vote. And I would expect that the town of Ned would pay attention to and care about my needs, as I am undoubtedly a very active community member. And as a community member, I'm asking that you all vote yes on Teens Inc. proposal for the Early Childhood Education Center. If not, I think I'm echoing a lot of opinions here, but I think we'll start to see, if we haven't already, an exodus of families. And that's a pretty bleak future for the town of Nederland that I don't think any of us want to see. So please vote yes. Thank you.
Thanks, Jenna.
I will go after Jenna and kind of reiterate one thing she said, but then talk more as a business owner, not as a parent. But so Michelle Heiliger, I do live up on Big Springs, taxpayer in the community, and I can vote. But, you know, I don't really have skin in the game anymore because my kids are now in first grade and preschool at the Caribou. And at the end of the day, we're covered. Like, we've been through everything: Boulder, Eagles Nest, New Explorers, all of it. And we've gone that route. We're out of it. My concern from a parent standpoint is we're like one life event from teachers, you know, and it throws the elementary school in chaos. A teacher wants to have a baby. She wants to get married. She wants to have 3 babies. We don't have first grade teacher. We don't have a kindergarten teacher. We don't have a 5th grade teacher. They want to retire. My first grade teacher wants to retire. She feels guilty because they can't. I mean, she will, but like at the end of the day, they can't. So yes, I do have some skin in the game in that I'm frustrated that we are here. I would like the proposal to pass because I think this is something needed years ago. But what I really wanted to hone in on was we have somebody who, I work in mergers and acquisitions. So I'm like a CFA and a CPA. I know what it takes to get investments, but I don't work in a nonprofit world. I can't touch that. I give amazing respect to the people who are on the board or who work in the nonprofit world. And my frustration comes from there's a lot of dissenting opinions. I want to see action. If you want to dissent, where is your advocacy? Where are you here talking about the affordable housing or all the other initiatives? This is the one initiative people are coming to bring to the table. And we have a man who has a 25-year track record, who I've worked with closely, who gave us COVID discounts when our kids were in New Explorers for COVID. I don't know him very well. Honestly, it's just from a professional relationship of, he's Teens Inc. and my kids went to New Explorers, but he's got a proven track record and he can get investors. That's one less lift for the town. Like, just from like a acquisition standpoint, like just in my head, just sitting there being like, from series funding and like fundraising in a for-profit world, if you can take one lift off the town and somebody is willing to do that, so then the town could focus on the affordable housing aspect. It sounds like we have some proposals up front that are coming to focus on that. We have Tungsten Village. It's not an if or, we need both. And we have someone willing to take the lift for the big childcare piece. Like, that's amazing. Other towns don't have that. And so I'm just in shock. I think as a taxpayer and just being in the town of Ned, lived here for 12 years, the bank is gone, Little Bear's gone, Aspen Grove is gone. We don't have a pharmacy. Black Forest is shut down. I'm like, we're regressing from when I moved here 12 years ago, and I moved after college. So I haven't been here from the 80s. I wasn't even born really in the 80s. So like, at the end of the day, I've seen a regression and like a desert. It's like we're becoming a desert. We're becoming a suburb of Boulder. And at the end of the day, we've actually thought about putting our kids in Boulder, being like, we can't deal with the chaos. And so just, hope you take it into account. We should appreciate Teens Inc. a lot more than any of the dissenting opinions up here are doing. Thank you.
Thanks, Michelle.
Hello, my name is Loris Albright Brown. I live at 146 Pine Glade. I'm also a teacher at Nederland Elementary. I've had several of your kids in my classes over the years. First off, I want to say thank you to Stephen, all the Teens Inc. board members of the past and present, and most importantly, the NELC staff who take amazing care of my son at this time. I've worked at the elementary school for many years, and I want to start off by saying that I do respect the concerns of the local neighborhood residents. But it is the board's job to represent and decide what's best for the entire town, not just the residents of that neighborhood. And one of the concerns that I've been hearing in the past few meetings is about the traffic coming in and out of the neighborhood. I've worked at the elementary school for, I think, 13 years now, and I see the traffic coming in and out of that neighborhood every day. There's approximately 175 students coming in and out daily. And the traffic isn't a concern. It's also a residential neighborhood. Kids come in, kids come out. Yeah, there's traffic, but I don't think it's that major of an issue. But what I really want to highlight is that childcare impacts all community services for all Nederland residents. In some of the past meetings and including tonight, people are talking about the services they provide or services that Ned residents need. The people in the neighborhood where the child care center would go, as well as the rest of Ned, are impacted by the lack of childcare, including emergency response services, other local government services like town government and the post office, basic services like grocery and home services, like home repair, but most importantly, the K-12 schools. There's been a declining student population all over the Boulder Valley School District, including up in Ned. And we need to really do everything that we can to keep families attending school in Nederland. You've heard many parents talk about people in their neighborhood going down to Boulder. There's been many retirements over recent years at both elementary and the middle school, high school. And when old people retire, young staff come in, and a lot of those young staff members have left because of lack of childcare or are currently unsure about returning to work because of childcare. This is happening at the elementary school and at the middle school and high school. So this is impacting childcare and the educational environment K-12. If we want to have quality educators living and working in Nederland, which has been important to the parent community over the years, we need to be able to provide childcare for those teachers. And there's just a lot of younger teachers. This is, I could say, 5 or 6 families that are directly impacted by this at the elementary school right now, like staff members that are either getting care at NELC or possibly might not be coming back to work. And we do have 2 more teachers retiring this year. So to provide care, we need care. One more quick note, Boulder County offers low-income Head Start services in most of the rest of the county. So Teens Inc. and Stephen taking this on up here to provide low-income care is important.
Thanks, Larissa. Appreciate it.
Hi, my name is Josh Holub. I live at 21 Navajo Trail. I'm the sole income earner in our house because my partner can't go to work because we have a 22-month-old. Life's expensive now. That's hard. We make it work, but it's not sustainable. Mostly, I live on Navajo Trail. We are not supposed to be a road to the elementary school. I think we probably have some of the best washboard in town. But we live with the elementary school traffic somewhat. I'm in the neighborhood. I'm a block down the road. It is not perfect by any means, but does it make our lives worse? It does not. I don't walk the dogs at 3:45 in the afternoon, but I walk them at 2 or I walk them at 4. And mostly I'm really grateful to have the school so close and such a great school. So I understand the concerns of the very close residents, but I also understand that for the community, this is something that is desperately needed because people are leaving and it greatly affects the community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Kira Badirka. I live in Rollinsville. I'm also a local teacher. I work at the middle high school, and I really just wanted to reinforce what was said earlier about the impact on our schools at a wider capacity. And so we at the middle high school, we have a lot of issues with funding and a lot of issues with being able to provide really awesome services for kids, which we do despite our lack of student population. And so having the ability to be able to keep students in our school system up here would have a huge impact, not only for our younger kids. I have a 1.5-year-old in the future, but also for our current students, because our funding as a school is based on our enrollment. And so long-term, the more students we have in school, the more benefit to our families and to our students and their education. Thank you.
Thanks, Kira.
I'm Jeanette Smith. I live at 60 Caribou Road. I have lived at 60 Caribou Road for 43 years, and the area that is under, that we're speaking about has had a variety of mostly the town shop and then the state shop there. And it has been vacant for some time. And I would love to have the daycare at my area. I live exactly north of the area. And I think it would be wonderful to have the daycare there. Thank you.
Thanks, Jeanette.
Hello. My name is Jennifer Careau. I live on Big Springs. I'm a local resident. I'm a local parent. I am a local business owner, and I am also a Teens Inc. board member. So I've been to all of the meetings, whether in person or online. I've written letters. I don't want to reiterate what other people are saying, but I do want to point out a couple of things for me personally. So as a resident, I think a preschool will help retain families. I would like to see a diverse community. I don't want to see a retirement community. I have kids here. On that note, as a parent, I have children in the middle school, high school, and I'm worried about the pipeline from littles, from infants,
on into the school system. I don't want to see our schools fall apart. I want a thriving school for my kids and for all the kids of this community. As a business owner, I have an employee who's about to have a baby. So that's great news. But if we lose her because she can't stay, that's going to really affect our business. She's a quality employee, and I don't want this to become a trend where business owners in town can't find employees because they have to leave for childcare. As a board member, I want to please let everybody know we're not doing anything underhanded. We're not trying to be nefarious. We're not trying to hurt anyone. We want win-win for town. We want win-win for neighbors and community members. And we really just are here to support the community. That's what Teens Inc. has done for 25 years. There's a proven track record. We just really want to help. And as has been mentioned earlier, this is kind of something that should have happened years ago. And we really are ready now to step up and do what needs to be done. We're not against affordable housing. We know that's an issue. We have looked at several locations for this for several reasons, whether it's financial, whether it's because of the lay of the land, whether it's because people want to offer the space, but there's strings attached. For whatever reason, we've looked at several things, and this location is ideal at the moment, and we're ready to do it. I don't know if anyone's ready to start building affordable housing. One thing I would like to know, we've been sitting in the back listening to people, and we've kind of taken notice, I hope you all have noticed too, that it seems that the tone of the people that are here to support this is getting a little frustrated. I feel like people are frustrated with having to say over and over and over again what a great thing this is going to be. And I hope you're hearing that. And I hope you vote yes. I hope you vote for families. I hope you vote for businesses. And I hope you vote for a thriving community. Thank you.
Thanks, Jen.
I'll be short. I'm Helene Mann. I live on Big Springs and I've been here for a long time. And I hear nothing but affordable housing and nothing has been done. I am a board member on Teens. I am a contributor to Teens Inc. It is fantastic. You cannot deny Stephen how he brings in the money and the programs. I'm retired 40-year educator, administrator. I owned a business. I do a lot of work in the town, even though I don't know many of you, but I do it secretly, I guess. And I'm a senior, and I do have grandchildren that don't live here, but kids are our future. And I've sent letters, and I think that everyone has to look at it because change is inevitable. Some of us don't like it, but it's going to happen. And what else can I say? I hope you vote yes.
Thank you.
Anastasia Stelling. I am a Nederland resident and voter. My grandmother lived in that neighborhood, and I spent my entire childhood walking that neighborhood, and it would be lovely to have something beautiful there. Teens Inc. is proposing to put vegetation in, which is not something that is necessarily guaranteed with affordable housing over there. I also currently live above where the preschool is currently. I walk and drive that every single day. And the noise is, in my opinion, non-existent other than the sounds of children laughing when they go outside. And the traffic is nominal in a much more constricted area. And it has been well mitigated and well designed to allow for traffic flow to go through there. Thank you.
Thanks, Anastasia.
I'm Charles Wood, 6387 Magnolia. So I'm not a citizen here anymore, but I have been in the past. And there's a couple of experiences I've had that I think ring true. I'm trying to pick through the things that haven't already been said, and there aren't many left. But when I was on your board, by the way, and appreciate all the work you all do. And I was on the board, interesting, and nod to the people in the neighborhood. I was on the board because I was the first house after the pressurized sewer system that the Caribou Room put in. So their pressurized sewer with however many people are using the restroom in the Caribou Room went right through my yard. That's why I joined the BOT. As it turned out, and you may know Peter. Peter and I got along just fine. Peter Fiore, who owned it, built it, and he brought me over. He made some changes. He made bigger tanks, slower pump, less powerful pump. Satisfied me, satisfied the neighbors that he was going to manage the parking. And we got in the Caribou Room is fine, and the neighborhood likes it, and I like it, even though I moved for other reasons. So there's possibility. I've written a piece written a letter in there that talks about the economic impact this can have when Teens Inc. brings $5 million to the town and invested in a town property that the town will continue to own. If that's a land grab, that's the worst one ever. It's just doesn't make sense. So I hope you guys weigh that fact, which that benefit, the town owning a more valuable land, applies to every citizen in the land. Doesn't apply to me, every citizen in the town. But it applies to everyone pretty equally because it's money into the town's account, sometime or other. So I just hope, and let me say one more thing. When I was on the BOT, we had a survey done about using census data. Look back in 10 years, and this was probably 7 or 8 years ago, 6 or 7, 8 years ago. Looking back 10 years, and the fastest growing segments in Nederland at that time, population segments, the way they segment populations, was retired people, that's me, and Boulder commuters. That's most of these folks you heard here. They wouldn't be commuters, I guarantee. And that's about the same now. I don't think it's changed. So I don't think these folks would be commuters. It's obvious what they're saying. If they have if this option was available to them. And I hope you all consider all of that stuff. Finally.
Thanks, Charles.
Okay.
Appreciate it. Appreciate your letter too. Appreciate everyone's letters.
I'll keep it very short. Maria Gaynor, I live on Indian Peaks Drive. We back up to School Road. So we get the school traffic. Every morning, 20 minutes, every afternoon, 20 minutes. It makes the neighborhood feel alive. It's not a big deal. That's all I wanted to say.
Thanks, Maria.
Hello, thank you trustees for all you do for town. I'm Stephanie Andelman. I live in North Gilpin County now, and I have many business interests in Nederland. I am a non-parent and I am over 50. And I am here to make 3 quick points in favor of moving forward with this preschool. 1, that area is currently an eyesore, and public affordable housing, of course, needs to be addressed and strategized. I lived on Caribou Road for several years and went by this area, always wondering what could become of it. If you do go the affordable housing, or if you build more housing there, that definitely guarantees more noise, cars, week-long and day-long activity. 2, I have many friends here who have middle school and high schoolers who are struggling to stay up here in school. We've heard this from other people, but my point is they come to me, what should my kids do? They want to go to Boulder. Stay here. You all need to stay here. It needs to start at the youngest age. We have to build community through the families, which we keep hearing. And 3, I have worked with Teens Inc. since 2008 as a board member, and this nonprofit is the most inclusive, large-reaching organization that we can trust in this endeavor. Thank you.
Thanks, Stephanie. Any other comments in favor of the SRU in the room? If not, we'll go online. Folks online, if you have a comment in favor of this special review use, please speak up.
Andrew has his hand raised.
Go ahead, Andrew.
Hello, everyone. Andrew Dewart here, Nederland resident and of 787 West First Street and business owner and parent. Just to kind of, I know we're not trying to echo what other people have said, but what Stasi had mentioned, living next to current New Explorers, I can honestly say if there were plans brought forward to make it larger somehow and build on the south side and take, the Caribou mine property, that I'd be in favor of that. It's not any issue when you're talking about traffic patterns that are during the school day. So in any case, I've heard a lot about like the impact on the neighborhood and being a neighbor. I'd be happy if it stayed where it was and it got bigger. And it really comes down to attrition. Like, what do we want in a community? Do we want to drive everyone out and not give people, the average people who need childcare and need to stay here, the ability to do that? Because they'll leave and that's fine. And then we'll get the people who don't have kids and have money and don't engage in the community. They'll be here and that's fine if that's what people want. So just, that's all I've got. Thanks.
Thanks, Andrew.
Misha?
Go ahead, Misha.
All right, thanks. Misha Sherman, Boulder Canyon Drive, which is a NED address, but outside of town limits. So I don't know where I fall on that. Are we or are we not technically NED people? I sent a letter with all the arguments and counter arguments to the opposition, so I'll simply voice my strong support. I'd urge a prompt decision. We're two professionals in tech, really, really love to be engaged in this community, but unfortunately we will need to be leaving NED over the childcare issue. So hopefully moving forward with this will keep other families from the same decision. The whole community really benefits. I think you've heard that strongly today. I think the world is having a rough time pulling together in communities everywhere. And I really hope that NED can become an example of how to get it right. Thanks.
Thanks, Misha. Other folks online?
We did have to meet a call-in user, so *6 if you called in and want to give a public comment.
All right. Hearing none, we'll bring it back to the board for discussion.
Mind if I go first? My battery's running really low here, so I want to
go.
Thanks everyone. Appreciate it. Especially those of you who have been committed to engaging with town government over the years for a long time on either side here. A lot of what you said is, really resonates with me emotionally, but unfortunately a lot of it is completely irrelevant to the criteria that we have to judge this SRU application by tonight. So those are the things that we actually need to look at here. And I just want to run through them from my perspective. And I'd obviously like to hear any of yours, and I'm willing to change my mind on things if I've got it wrong. But I'm going to go with number 5 first. The town has the capacity to serve the proposed use with water, sewer, fire, and police protection. I think that it is clear that the town does have that capacity. So I don't see a problem there. Number 4, I do believe it is consistent with the comprehensive plan, which specifically calls out the need to serve children in our community. Number two, I do believe it is, I think it's worth noting that the way that this is worded, and I think it's important that it's worded this way, is that we're looking at whether or not it is generally compatible with adjacent land uses. We're not looking at whether or not it impacts adjacent land uses, right? So any development, any special review use will impact adjacent land uses, right? The question is whether it's generally compatible, not whether it impacts those uses. So I do believe, especially considering the fact that our zoning code has specifically indicated that schools, preschools, childcare facilities are acceptable in residential neighborhoods. Our code has said that for many years. It's not a new thing. So it is generally compatible with adjacent land uses, in my opinion, from that reading. I do have a question to staff and town attorney under for one here, on whether or not it is eligible for a special review under section 16-32. I don't feel like I'm necessarily legally qualified to make that determination, but I think that the action by the board and discussion items in the past, the fact that town staff have explicitly allowed this SRU to move forward does indicate written consent by the town that we are wanting to see this application before us. I don't think that written consent by the town is defined as a vote by the entire town, but correct me if I'm wrong on that.
So 1632 is actually the use group.
Oh, the use table, sorry.
Right. But I think you're addressing the
1652, I believe, is the one.
Yes, yes. And that does have written consent of the owner. And the purpose for that is to demonstrate to staff that the owner consents with moving forward with the application process if the person who is the applicant is not the owner. In this case, this Teens Inc. proposal came to the town, came to the Board of Trustees before an application was submitted. Direction was provided to town staff to, one, update the use group table to add the private child care center, and then to move forward with the special review use application. So the Board of Trustees has provided consent to moving forward with this SRU application. If anybody here on the board, if as a group, you don't feel like you have provided consent, then I think that's something that you should discuss tonight, that, you know, there isn't consent for this application. But the direction that was provided to town staff was to move forward. We have consent for this application.
Yeah, I believe that I provided that consent for my part, but be interested to hear what you all think. So in that case, that's clause 1 of 3 that we've addressed. Number 1 is eligible for a special review on the use group table. Yes, it is, because we did change those use group tables so that it would be. So in that case, I think number 1, it meets it. So really where it comes to whether or not I think it meets these criteria is in clause 2 of criteria 3, which says is in compliance with this chapter and minimizes potential adverse impact of the special review use on adjacent properties and traffic flow. And that has been my concern with the proposal from the beginning, was minimizing that impact. And no, it says minimizing, not eliminating that impact, right? Generally compatible, minimizing impact. I do think that in order to fully mitigate and minimize the impact, that the town might need to do something, especially on West 3rd and West 4th Streets in terms of the traffic pattern there. I don't think that that's necessarily on Teens Inc. to sort out, but I think that if we do approve this, I think that there will be some conversation moving forward, and I hope that there's some conversation on how we address those 2 streets, whether they become one way, whether we put up local traffic only signs and try to enforce that in some way, some solution to ensure that we're not getting traffic coming from every which way and then causing additional bottlenecks trying to get out Caribou. So I think that there is still something to sort out there. I think that the proposal from my perspective and in my interpretation here, right, for 3, I think that the proposal does what it can to minimize potential adverse impact of the special review use. So I would find that it has satisfied criteria 3 as well. That is how I'm thinking about this at the moment. I have many emotional reactions to a lot of the things people have said, but none of them really count for much in this particular quasi-judicial hearing. So I just want to make that clear. The reason why I'm not addressing those things is because they simply don't apply.
That is true. Who else? I'd like to talk.
Eric went through exactly the analysis that I was hoping Eric would go through. I'm glad you went first. Thank goodness for your battery being on.
Yeah, thanks, Eric. That's much appreciated. A very analytical approach is helpful in an emotional situation. I might submit a little bit to the emotional commentary. I get it. You know, if this was my backyard, I'd have an opinion about it. But it turns out I live directly next to the elementary school. And so and before I lived up here, we lived in Boulder directly next to an elementary school. It's different than if you didn't live next to an elementary school, but it's not bad. I heard comments from several people who live close to the current elementary school, and yes, there's traffic. Yes, there's noise. Yes, there's lights. But those things, I think, can be mitigated, and I think that they are not necessarily as intrusive as they can be envisioned to be. As I mentioned before, I think that the points that a lot of the residents in that neighborhood have brought up are really valid. It's hard to balance all of these things with the very, very clear need that we have for childcare. I have my own child in the middle school, and the pipeline comment that several people brought up of kids that go down for preschool end up staying down for kindergarten, and then they've got friends and they don't want to come up. And so the current high school class for Nederland Elementary, I think it's like 20 kids, right? And so we're seeing this attrition from elementary school. Elementary school classes are getting smaller, fewer kids going to middle school, even fewer going to high school. And that's just not a good reflection of what is important to our community. It's really important that we support the families and the kids so that we can stay as a community. The other comment, which I think is really important that somebody brought up, is talking about Nederland as a hub of the peak-to-peak region. I mean, this is true for our schools, this is true for our businesses, it's true for just our general sense of community. Yes, the people in town are the only ones who get to vote about these things, but the impact is huge. And we talk about these things all the time. We have the peak-to-peak broadband, we have peak-to-peak housing authority. It's bigger than just the people who live in the official town of Nederland. Ridge Road is a great example of people who are, for all practical purposes, Nederland residents, but don't pay taxes, don't get to vote.
Well, I would point out that the vast majority of our revenue is from sales taxes, not from property taxes. So the idea that folks who shop and live and work and do their day-to-day in the town of Ned aren't paying taxes is an absurd notion.
Right. Well, I mean, right, they don't pay property taxes, but that's my point, is that these people are Nederland residents, even though they don't technically live in town. And I don't know that we reject that notion very much, but I really feel like we should embrace it in this situation. Like embrace the fact that we are a hub of this general P2P community. I think there's some things we could do to like prioritize perhaps families in the town of Nederland, but I think those are all discussions that we can talk about down the road.
Thanks, Lou. Did you want to go next?
Yeah, please. We've heard a lot of emotional things tonight. I want to go back to, I number one, appreciate your paradigm that we walked through, but I want to go back to staff and see if there were any factual inaccuracies that were thrown. There was a lot of people talking tonight, pro and con. Miranda, anything that you can address from anything you heard tonight?
Yeah, I think there were just three things that we wanted to speak to, and one Attorney Madsen just touched on is that this did come to you and you gave us a lot of direction to move forward. This hearing was publicly noticed, in the newspaper on February 1st, and letters were sent out to anyone within 300 feet on February 5th. And then I think the biggest thing is just really wanting to clarify the EPA. Reaching out to the EPA and having them do testing. There was a statement made earlier that the EPA is saying we did not test properly. That is inaccurate. And I just want to read the exchange really quickly. When I reached out to the EPA, I said, did the town technically follow remediation guidelines in phase 1 and 2 assessments, or did the companies we hire miss a step? Just trying to assess if these soil samples should have happened, or if this is just another step you're recommending for assurances. And Tim Ryder with the EPA responded and said, I wouldn't take issue with anything you did. If I had been the contractor doing sampling, I would have grabbed a couple of surface soil samples. It would not have added significantly to the cost. The old mill is close by, but I looked at the topo maps and the mill looks to be down gradient of the subject site, so I can understand the decision not to sample the surface soils. Still, I've done enough work in mining districts to know that it's not uncommon for waste from mills to get moved around and used for backfill in other parts of town. I think it's wise to cover all bases and ask us to do some additional sampling. So I just wanted to know that this is additional, but that those phase 1 and 2 assessments are accurate and valid.
Thanks. I think working with facts is really important.
Thanks, Miranda. Thanks, Tom. Did anything else you want to cover?
I guess I was curious to hear from Luke, your thoughts on the criteria.
Yeah, I mean, I think Eric did a really excellent job running through the specifics, and certainly the question on number one. I wasn't a part of the board at that time to have given my approval, but I trust the rest of the previous board members to have done their diligence there. The number two, Eric, I think you covered that really well. Number three is, I think I have questions, but I think, again, what Eric said really well is that the current SRU does its best to mitigate that as it is. And I think also what Billy said in the beginning, this is step one of a process that will have a lot of questions that will come up along the way, and we'll need to answer those as we come. And the details of how drainage, traffic, what do we pave those roads? Do they become one way? Do they, what kind of signage is there? Those things really need, they need answers. And part of what will make this a successful project is working closely with the neighbors who've lived there for some of them decades, who understand the area. They understand what the drainage is. They understand what the concerns are, and the more closely Teens Inc. and the town can work with the neighbors to mitigate their concerns preemptively, right? That's a big thing of engaging with the community and saying, hey, we think this might be a problem. What can we do for you? So I think that those things in 2 and 3 are really important. It's a small neighborhood, but it doesn't matter. I feel like everybody's neighborhood gets fair treatment.
You did make me just think of something that I thought about while hearing comments, and that is, there's no criteria for this, right? What are the potential ways that it could benefit adjacent uses? That's not really asked here, right? But I do think that there's a possibility for remediation of that riparian corridor as part of this. I think removing a road will actually be better for the creek, for its health. There'll be less road-based runoff and things like that going into the stream. So I think that there are some real potential benefits to the direct area surrounding it, even though that's not necessarily what we're judging tonight.
Thanks for the very last point.
Well,
I mean,
there's always another last point.
I mean, we're back to, we're focused on one thing only tonight.
Yeah. I'm really hoping that we can focus on the quasi-judicial criteria for this hearing as much as possible.
Jesse and Tanya? Tanya?
There, do you hear me?
Yeah. you sound-
Okay.
we can
Well,
hear you.
also, been listening to all the comments and from the trustees as well as all of our residents. And I'm gonna try to, like everyone's saying, refrain from debating or arguing or defending or sympathizing with all the points made, and all of them are very valid, and stick to the criteria. And as everybody has stated, there will be fine tuning a lot with streets, with roads, sewer, with design, with lighting, with traffic, all the components that are of concern.
Hello,
in the
did the audio
SRU.
just fall out?
Oh, you don't hear me?
No,
Hello?
we can hear Tanya in here.
Anyone else? Okay, so bottom line is those fine tunings will happen in several more meetings if this gets approved. But as far as satisfying the criteria, the very basic criteria that's listed, I don't see any argument with that. I think it satisfies it. I think this is something that will benefit the community. And I guess I'm just gonna leave it there to avoid getting into the emotional aspect of things.
Thanks, Tanya. Jesse?
Yeah, I want to say thanks to everybody for coming out and for everybody online for chiming in and all the letters and just the degree of engagement on this has been incredibly impressive and a bit overwhelming, I must say. And this is it feels like there's a lot of gravity around this decision. It's tough. I feel like this is the toughest decision we've made just from the emotional impact more than anything. And from the analyzing the criteria, I'm aligned with Eric's analysis. And yeah, I feel that this meets the criteria. So I'm prepared to support this. I'm open to additional debate and discussion, obviously. I do want to discuss a little bit criteria number 3, and I want to also just add a little bit of commentary on all the comments that have been made tonight, and offer what I hope will be some degree of upliftment to what I feel is a heavy decision. And and I'm gonna couch my commentary in criteria number 3 because I feel like that's our opportunity for a path forward as a community. The proposal, the location's not perfect, let's say. Let's just recognize that. And I don't know that there is a perfect location. With that said, being part of many development projects myself, as a contractor, I've noticed that the relationship with neighbors cannot be under or overvalued. It's so incredibly important, and I've seen it time and time again where people are developing and they get crossed up with their neighbors, and it makes for a difficult existence in a location in perpetuity potentially. And so as a contractor, I'm always trying to encourage my customers to have good relations with their neighbors. As a BOT member, I've also tried to find avenues or vehicles that we could somehow put in place that would incentivize and encourage Nederland folks and community members to take steps to build and maintain good, strong relationships with neighbors. So I commend Stephen, you making efforts to do that, and members of the Dyers neighborhood, I encourage you to stay engaged with Stephen. I know him personally, and I feel that he's open and willing to have a dialogue and to work with you all as creatively and solutions oriented as he can, meanwhile still staying focused on delivering childcare for the community, the greater community of Nederland. One of the ways, in my opinion, the thing that I can imagine being sort of the most frightening about this development is the traffic. And I feel that a good traffic plan is necessary, and I trust that you all are working on that and working with town staff and the streets department to execute that. And I've heard some of the counter arguments along the lines of let's prioritize Nederland folks. And so I, as you all know, or may not know, am a big advocate of bicycling, multimodal transportation, and recreation. And I know it's difficult. One of the things that I don't like about this particular location is that big arcing curve on the highway that is incredibly difficult to cross on foot or on bike. And I do it often, and I'm always a little bit nervous. And, I really don't think I've ever tried to cross it holding one of my daughter's hands, and I don't think I would want to. And I do cross right there at the library, the highway, and that is nerve-wracking enough, and there's a crosswalk there. But I would like to see us do as much as we can along the lines of criteria number 3 to minimize the potential adverse effects of the traffic increase for the people there. A large building, I don't necessarily see that as a big downside. That would be the same for affordable housing. And the building, in my opinion, looks very nice. It looks very attractive. I love the gardens. I love the opportunity to mitigate along the stream. I love the thought of kids laughing and playing. And, I feel like it's very tasteful and well done. And, but the traffic seems to be the biggest negative impact, in my opinion. And being somebody who's really in favor of multimodal transportation, a trail network, and encouraging recreation in our town, and some of the oppositional commentary was around having a priority for locals or for Nederland residents proper. And I think that's valid on some level. Well, whether I do or don't, I would like to offer because I also really appreciate Kate and Jen and all the folks who live out on Ridge Road and in the greater community. And I'm glad that you guys are engaged with the community. And I do want to represent your interests as best I can. You come here and you spend your money, you come to public meetings, you come to the farmer's market, and you're great members of the community. And thank you. So back to the traffic thing. I wonder if there might be an opportunity to explore something along the lines of incentivizing people who are bringing their kids to daycare to walk or bike to the daycare. And I don't know how that could be done, or if there's a will for anything like that on behalf of those of us sitting at this table, the BOT members, to explore anything along those lines. But that's the only thing that I could offer. And I think that that would include things along the lines of exploring the relationship with the Colorado Department of Transportation around calming traffic around that corner. Perhaps, I don't know how we could get people to slow down a little bit there, somehow create some visibility opportunities, perhaps a crosswalk, double down on our efforts to create an interconnected trail network. And, I see in Boulder, families with electric bikes with whole families on there. And I know it's doable, and I know that we have a really active community here. And, Stephen, as far as the management side, I don't think you could necessarily, I could imagine it would be difficult to kind of force families to make a pledge or anything along those lines of drive or, walking or biking as much as they could. But, perhaps it could just be on an honor system where if they made a commitment to walking and biking whenever they could somehow get some bumped up 2 slots on the waiting list or something along those lines. I mean, I don't want to tell you how to manage that, but that's kind of the only thing that I can see as an opportunity to keep refining the project and the proposal moving forward. And other than that, and with that, I should say, I'm supportive of this project.
Jesse, I didn't bring it up because it's not necessarily relevant to the Teens Inc. proposal at hand, but the mere existence of a childcare facility there, I think, will provide a talking point and leverage to interconnect our trail system a bit better. I mean, when I was on ProSab, we talked about a crosswalk in that area on numerous occasions. It's something that needs to be done. It's needed to be done for a long time, but this will only move that forward. But I don't think that it's related to this SRU, so I'm not making any decisions based on that. But it is an obvious point. I mean, maybe it could be like plastic bags, you drop off your kid on a bike and it's like you didn't buy a plastic bag at the grocery store. You get your 10 cents, your nominal fee or something.
10 cents off to it.
Or in-house games like the kids who got delivered without a vehicle the most in a year get a prize.
Sure.
I don't know.
But we're off topic.
We are.
Well, yes and no. I think this is relevant to point number 3.
Okay. So I mean, the relevance being that we could get creative in ways to minimize potential adverse impact, specifically traffic.
Well, and specifically, I think we're being asked to adjudicate on if we approve the SRU as is or with conditions.
Right.
Or deny.
Right.
So I'm exploring you all to see if there's an appetite for a possible condition around point number 3. It's not a deal breaker for me. So if it's not anything we want to get into, I'm fine with that. I'm just saying that's something I would like to see moving forward as this project proposal evolves.
That makes sense to me, Jesse, but Stephen's got what I remember loud and clear, he's got some hard grant deadlines, so I want to do it without conditions if we can.
Well, let's hear your comments and Billy's and see if we got the votes.
I'm done.
Can we just, as staff, just really quickly note that in the SRU, there are conditions, and one of the conditions is related to traffic flow.
Yeah, the PC gave us those
I
conditions.
think what you're talking about, Trustee Severs, is really more on town staff to evaluate with CDOT and less so on Teens Inc. And so I just also want to just put that into place here, is that, these are conditions specifically for Teens Inc.
Yeah, that's what we count on you for.
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what Jesse was trying to say, is like, is there something that the Teens Inc. can do to encourage non-car delivery of children to that location, and what what are the obstacles? I mean, obviously the peak to peak is it's a divider through our community as far as pedestrian and bicycle access. And unfortunately, for everybody who lives up the hill in Sunnyside, Indian Peaks area, like you actually can't get down from that neighborhood, even though it's right there. You can't cross on foot from anywhere in that neighborhood down to Caribou Road without walking on the highway.
Bike jump.
Right. So I just, well, there's some community trails, but there are no official town trails through that neighborhood. And I think that's a valid question to say, is there something that Teens Inc. can do to encourage non-car traffic?
Or
as a way to mitigate point number 3 of reducing the traffic impact on the neighborhood.
Or celebrate non-car traffic.
Would you be open to hear from Tanya? I'd like to hear what Tanya's, it's probably related because she just raised her hand. Go ahead, Tanya.
Yeah, it is. And well, it's related, but it is off topic in the sense that with the school being there, if there were a school there, it would help incentivize. There's a lot of grants available for safe to school, safe streets. They have several names of available to help kids get to school safely. And they haven't really been utilized too well in the Nederland community at this point, but that is not to say that they could not be applied to and hopefully received, and then that could help. Because yeah, right now it is not an easy commute unless you live on that side of the neighborhood. People do it, of course, but yeah, we do need to figure out a way to cross the street. We'll be getting a grant update in March where we'll be able to find out what's going on with our crosswalk grant that's been in progress for a long time, and where there was going to be a crosswalk there, I think. So there are things going, and I think this is a good opportunity to kind of push town staff to pursue more grants related to safe streets, and also teams, once they're done building and they're done doing those kind of grants, they would have perhaps some bandwidth to look for that as well. So I think that would be a huge benefit for the whole community, is to be more walkable. That's all I have to say.
Thanks, Tanya.
I had a clarification to ask Miranda. You said that there are conditions. So would we need to vote to approve with conditions for those conditions to actually be included? I'm a bit confused.
We would need to, I'm actually pretty clear on this, I think. The PC, just all condition recommendations. We should see where we're at on approval or denial, and if we get to the point of approval, then get specific on.
No, but we have to make a motion to approve with conditions.
Right,
or
right. So
together.
All of us need to talk.
Yeah. But what are these conditions?
Well, we can get to that at the end, or we can see.
Let's review them.
Do we need to see where anyone else is at? Well, if you're not talking, Billy, you got to talk. Come on.
Well, I'm letting people talk.
Go, Billy.
Yeah. Anyways, I forgot what I was going to say. Good job. All right. So I think, again, it's, as you said, there's kind of a dark veil. Like it's challenging to see change, and I am all for change happening slow and smart. And it's hard to be part of a neighborhood that gets affected. I can relate. This is a smart thing, but more importantly, but again, we have to come back to the section 1655. So it is eligible for the special review under 1632 due to the fact that ordinance 854 was approved in December. It's really compatible with adjacent land uses. It's not perfect, but it's generally a block and a half away. Little Bear Preschool operated for decades. A block and a half away across the highway is in the neighborhood. Meets all requirements of 1652 above, and is in compliance with this chapter, minimizes potential adverse impact of the special review use on adjacent properties and traffic flow. I think we're talking about Third and Fourth, but I think it's really Fourth and Griffith that we need to get the most focused on traffic flow, because that's like moving it around, right? And we're staying away from Third. So we don't even need to go by the firehouse, so there isn't a traffic jam when the fire alarm goes off. And the fire trucks can leave Third nice and clean. So when I talk about conditions, these are some of the conditions in my head that we commit, that a way to minimize potential adverse impact is promoting biking. I don't know how deep we can get to the minutia on that one, but like, I love it. And also focusing on just two streets, Fourth and Griffith, and, be it one way or however you're going to do it, or be a one way for part of the day. However, keeping people off of Third, like it is now with New Explorers, can't go off Caribou, west of Aspen, New Explorers. So being real specific about where people come in and out. I think it is consistent with the comprehensive plan. I think the way the points laid out by Teens Inc. were much more comprehensive and straightforward than points laid out against with regards to the comprehensive plan. It's made clear by the different departments that we have the capacity, number 5. So I think that brings us to B and C, which is the conditions. And so that's where we can talk now. Thank you so much for letting me talk.
Just a quick point of clarification, Billy. So it seems like for the neighbors, Colson Street is the one that probably has their biggest concern. So is that something that's we're going to talk about as a way to?
So when you look at when I look at the way, I mean, well, when I so I'm looking at the map where the student drop off is and where people would come in and come out. I don't know why they go to Colson Street.
Well, exactly. Right.
I'm fine with the town saying you can't.
Yeah.
You can't drive in Colson Street. You can't drive on Third.
Yeah.
Like, to me, it's what the town's been doing with Aspen Grove and New Explorers for a long time.
So does that qualify as conditions?
I think that's, well, so the 3 things they have to do per the PC are outline traffic flow, hours of operation for drop off and pickup. And I actually need clarification. The third one is screening of facility in their narrative.
I think
So-
it's the tree.
Let's look at the SRU, but I guess really quick, I do want to really caution you that your conditions that you're talking about are town things you want town to work on. And I just think it's appropriate to apply to Teens Inc. So I think keeping things relatively broad and that, teens will work with town, but like how we control traffic flow, teens doesn't get to decide how traffic flow is going to be handled.
How did we do it with Aspen Grove? Because like Aspen Grove gets scolded every time people drive there by town. Like, did town?
I would have to look into that.
Okay, yeah. It's just my experience of how that actually worked at Aspen Grove, and seemed like it was more on the preschool than town. That's why I'm thinking about it that way.
So,
But town provides that signage, so.
Yeah.
No, and we can't ask them to police town streets.
Oh, yeah, no. Okay, I'm fine with the town doing it. I was just talking about if we're going to come up with conditions that's specific.
I don't think it's an objective to come up with conditions, though. We've got a long way to go through the process.
Yeah.
Well, and in the SRU are the conditions that came out of.
Right, that's why.
Shane.
One of which is outline traffic flow. That's why I'm doing that.
And I understand that those are already in the agreement. So if we approve it as written, those conditions will already be there. Is that correct?
I think to specify, the motion probably doesn't state it very clear, but just to say as specified in the SRU agreement.
Okay, with the conditions as specified in the SRU.
And
agreement.
I just want to make one note, because I put together the SRU agreement, that when I put it together, I had an understanding that the hours would be 8:30 to 5. And they're actually, from what I understand in the packet and what Stephen had said, they're 8 to 5:30 p.m. So that needs to be adjusted in the agreement.
Is that long enough? Is that actually a valid? I'm fine with Stephen coming up.
We're asking for 8 to 5:30, whether we'd be open from 8 to 5:30.
Whether your traffic would be contained in time, in those 9.5 hours?
Oh, well, if people pick up at 5:30 or 5:45 because they're late, there would be probably a lingering car till 6.
Yeah,
If it's-
that's why I'm wondering, should we say?
If 8 to 6 would be great.
To me, it seems like
If that means, but then I guess I don't understand fully of it. Like, we will have some staff that are cleaning up, and the building will not be closed at 6 because there's a lot of prep work for the next day, and there's a lot of cleanup for the cleanup of the day. But the school day, the maximum hours of operation of the school we were seeking is 8 to 5:30. And that's the maximum. Like, we may choose to have it from 8:30 to 5, but we think 5:30 is good for people who are coming from Boulder. We think 8 is good at the maximum amount.
Okay.
For operations.
And I gotta say, as a resident Fourth and Griffith, this corner that we're talking about, there is traffic right now. There's a lot of, there's people with school kids, and there's ambient traffic. So I'm not too worried about.
Doesn't the school bus go through there already at 8:10?
Yeah. No, actually, it doesn't even come into the neighborhood. I think it
No,
picks them up on the highway.
Yeah, my kids are on that bus. It picks them up on that.
No, it
Oh, does it?
It comes, yeah, it goes through there.
Okay.
Oh.
I haven't even noticed it. No, I just see you
Well,
walking by it.
I only know because my kid's on the bus, so.
So then Attorney Madsen, would the wording need to be changed in the agreement to like specify like hours of childcare operation?
Yeah, if you want to be really specific, hours of childcare operation of the childcare center,
Right.
or, yeah, I think
I
that,
just want to make sure that we're doing it
yes,
right.
yep.
I mean, it says on page 139, hours of operation. Teens Inc. proposes hours of operations from 8 to 5:30. So here's where they're addressing the PC's conditions.
Right. No, but we're talking about in the SRU agreement as it's drafted, it doesn't say that, it's different. So we would need to amend it in the motion.
Yeah, it seems like the conditions that are laid out currently are maybe not quite clear enough. And that we would need to clarify the current amendments.
Attorney
Yes.
Madsen, is that accurate?
Or would we just say per, like you said earlier, per, with conditions as specified in the SRU, which is,
Well, so the one condition that's been discussed recently is the one about the hours of operation of the childcare center. And there's been some testimony from the applicant that there may be people there prior to 8 o'clock.
there will be.
Or just clarifying that this is the hours of the operation of the child care center itself, and not the staff that's there. But it also needs to be specified that it's 8 a.m. to 5:30 because it's different.
Okay, thanks.
I'm inclined to pass this as is without conditions.
I'm actually inclined to do that too.
But,
I'm gonna make sure we discuss.
But that one condition is something that Teens Inc. wants, right? Like we need to expand the hours.
Expand.
It can't be 8:30 to 5, it has to be 8 to 5:30.
Is there,
It says 8 to 5:30 on there.
No, it says 8 to 5:30 in the SRU, 8:30 to 5 in the SRU agreement.
As drafted.
As drafted, which is what we're trying to pass
Okay.
right now.
Oh, yeah, fix that.
let's do that then.
Yeah, we have to fix that.
Looking at.
But do we want
part of
to,
it.
do we want to add downcast lighting as a condition? Is that
Yeah, I mean,
do.
if make it dark sky lighting, I think that would be appropriate.
or following dark
Yeah,
sky
following
principles?
guidance, you waste your money on those
Yeah,
certifications.
no
and that line of work.
Yeah, following, guideline, dark sky guidelines.
Downcast lighting, and
Planting to mitigate noise and green the property.
I like that.
Jesse, you were just the guy a couple of minutes ago who said no condition.
Well, we might as well, if we're going to do it, we might as well do it, right?
And that's in there.
That's in there, okay.
Yeah, yep.
The downcast lighting is
Not
not,
the downcast lighting. You want me to read? the
it's confusing
conditions?
what's in the application and what's in the agreement because there's two documents.
Sure, read us the conditions.
Yes, so in the SRU agreement that's in your packet, the conditions are the applicant is required to design and implement a drop-off and pickup traffic flow to minimize the impacts of traffic to the neighbors. B is the applicant is required to limit the hours of operation of the child care center to Monday through Friday during the hours of 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. That's one that needs to be adjusted. And then C, the applicant will plant and maintain native trees and shrubs on the west side and south side of the building to mitigate noise. Those are the three.
So we, in this case, we could just add, we could amend the time frame to make it match with the application. And we could add downcast lighting to be used using dark sky principles. Do we want to add an incentive for non-motorized or alternative transportation?
Well, and could somebody clarify, like, what's the difference between the conditions that are listed in the AIM and the conditions that are listed in the special?
Yeah, so we're basically passing the SRU agreement.
Right, but so what are the, where did the conditions
Those-
that are in the AIM, like, why
They're
are
just
why are they
examples.
different?
They're
Oh, they're
examples.
just examples. I understand. Thank you.
Regarding incentivizing non-motorized traffic to and from, I don't know that we can get into the mechanism of how that can be achieved. I wouldn't mind adding language in there to just tip the hat to that principle, similar to something like a resolution.
Yeah.
But I don't think that we can do anything.
I like it. I'd be more keen on doing it now if town had done its end, I think, which is to like make sure that there's actually a safe way to get there using non-motorized transportation, but I don't think we've done yet.
Yeah,
So
I agree.
once
So-
we do that, we could come back and amend
Yeah,
the lease or the agreement to include these things.
we'll kick the can down the road on that one.
Is there anything
There's
else?
just a lot of things been negotiated still.
Yeah. I think that pretty well covers it, unless town staff or anyone else can think of anything that.
Sounds like you're gonna have to make a motion if you've been typing this up.
Yeah, I'm working on it.
Okay.
I'm working on it. And, you know, Attorney Madsen's gonna have to correct me when I get it all wrong. But I can make a, you know, an honest try. So I move to approve ordinance number 859, approving the special review use of a private childcare center at 750 West Fifth Street with the following additional conditions: that the hours of operation of the childcare center for providing childcare services shall be limited to the hours between 8 a.m. and 5:30 p.m., and that downcast lighting be used with dark sky principles.
Second.
And just the other conditions as drafted in the SRU.
As well as the other conditions as drafted in the SRU agreement included in the packet.
Second. Any discussion? Tanya, is your hand still up or did you want to say something else? Macy?
All right.
Oh,
Trustee-
sorry, let me take my hand down.
Okay, well, keep your mic on.
Yeah.
We're doing the roll.
All right,
Yeah.
trustee Coombs Ismail,
Yes.
Mayor Billy,
Yes.
trustee Miller,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Mahone,
Yes.
trustee Severs,
Yes.
and trustee Corvalon.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Motion passes. Thanks, everyone, for your comments, your patience.
So I just want to maybe quickly recap just next steps so everyone knows what happens from here. There's a stipulation in the SRU that a ground lease will be executed within 90 days of the final adoption of the ordinance. Just a reminder, an ordinance takes effect 30 days from date of publication. Date of publication will be this Thursday. We also need to do the right-of-way vacation, which the town will come forward with that. And then if approved, looking at a subdivision. So a couple more pieces to go, but SRU has passed.
Thank you. So we have one more action item. Yeah, potentially, I think so, yeah. Let's go right into it. So action item on the STR regulatory fee. Macy.
So during the 2024 budget adoption, the Board of Trustees agreed to implement a short-term rental regulatory fee. The purpose of the fee is to cover town staff time and compliance software used to regulate short-term rentals. The fee will be charged at a rate of 145 bedrooms per year.
The Planning Commission Subcommittee continues to work on the recommendations for amendments to the licensing regulations. Town staff will present those recommended amendments at a later meeting before the expiration of the moratorium. The purpose of this ordinance tonight is only to address the addition of the regulatory fee. So do you guys have any questions?
Any clarifying questions?
Not from me.
Or things you want the public to hear before we go to public comment? Hearing none, we'll go to public comment. We're open to public comment on the STR regulatory fee ordinance. We'll go in the room first. As a public comment on the STR regulatory fee. If not, anyone online, do you have any comments on the STR regulatory fee ordinance? If not, we'll bring it back to the board for discussion.
I move to approve ordinance 858, amending the short-term rental licensing article in section 695 to require an annual short-term rental regulatory fee.
I had one question though for staff.
Go for it.
I'm wondering if it's based on time staff spends on paperwork. I'm wondering if it becomes a moratorium unless people are applying and the software gets purchased and understood in the future, if this fee will go down when town staff time goes down with it.
So the town staff time was calculated before the moratorium was in place, and it does not include the time spent on reworking the ordinance revision.
No, I know, but like, do you foresee like in a couple of years when things have stabilized that this could be revisited for reevaluation of town staff time, since it's directly correlated to that? The amount of money that we're charging is 100% related to your hours spent working on STR. So I'm wondering if this will be reevaluated on an annual basis, or if
Yeah, I actually have your answer, Tanya. It's
Yeah.
it's going to be passed by resolution each year in the budget. So the board will be able to adjust it each year when passing the budget.
Correct. And I was just going to add too, that we would come to you and let you know if time had changed.
Great. That's all I wanted to know. Thank you.
Thanks, Tanya. So we did have a motion and a second. Wait, did we? Am I just getting ahead of myself?
No, you're
We had a
right.
motion and a second. Would you like to discuss anything else, Tanya?
No.
Okay. Macy?
All right, trustee Coombs Ismail,
Yes.
trustee Severs,
Yes.
trustee Miller,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Mahold,
Yes.
trustee Corvalon,
Yes.
and Mayor Billy.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Appreciate that. Public comment on non-agenda items. We have time now. We give time now for public comment on non-agenda items.
I got one.
Go for it.
For those that haven't tried it, our new car share electric Subaru, get over and try it. It's great. It's really fun to
Did
drive.
you drive it?
I did.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Agreed. Yes, please.
And I did plug it back in.
Thank you.
Cool. I want to try that. Any other business? Any public comments on non-agenda items? Folks online? Hearing none. Any other business?
I would
move
like
to
everyone. I would like everyone to consider doing our meetings earlier.
That is
Set
I
up
second
for
something we can
doing it
do.
again. Luke seconds. I think it's coming up that we will revisit and review all of our ways of doing business.
Right.
So
That will be the time for us to do that. I think you'll. Yeah.
My motion still stands.
Second.
Good one. Macy? No discussion.
So that was trustee Coombs Ismail? Okay, thank you.
Yes, and second by
Tom.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you so much, guys. All right, so Mayor Billy,
Yes.
trustee Miller,
Yes.
trustee Corvalon,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Mahold,
Yes.
trustee Severs,
yes.
and trustee Coombs Ismail.
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you. The meeting is adjourned at 9:56 p.m.
Great
Thanks,
job,
everyone.
team. Thank you so much.